What I find fascinating is you guys are both forgetting a very pivotal scene in the book. After the king dies, she goes and gets coronated.
Oh yeah, Daddy's like ready to claim your birthright, girly. And I would, is that not this time?
Remember when she's leaving on the docks?
Where's she going?
She's escaping, remember? You guys.
Wait. How did she not get the dragon then?
They get into a slap fight and Evander gets there first. I'm telling you, this is not a good book.
How can Evander get there first? He's so sucky.
Here's what happens. They get into a slap fight.
Yeah, like her magic got taken away, right?
No.
Sure, so
No.
No. How did Evander get to the dragon before her? It didn't make any sense.
I'm dying.
No. Somehow she didn't make it to the dragon first, and it was because she already kept her back, wasn't it? Okay, she did.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Unresolved Textual Tension. It's me, your host, Valerie. With me today is some guy I found on the internet, Will.
But he's handsome and rugged.
And Limber. And today we are reviewing A Fate Forged in Fire by Hazel McBride, which is a published House of the Dragon fanfic, correct?
It is indeed. And for those who don't know, on this panel of reviewers here, two of us are massive A Song of Ice and Fire nerds, and one of the three of us is a massive House of the Dragon fan, and then one of us is just some random person we invited here because she loves to roast romanticy.
This is just a romanticy book to me. I have no context for what the characters are like in House of the Dragon. I read the first Game of Thrones book, but that's it.
That's actually perfect.
Yeah, so I'm coming at this from a completely different angle than you guys. I feel like it'll be fun.
Normally, I wouldn't have us read, like if this had just been a fanfic, I would not have had us read it. I think it's unfair to read fanfic as not part of the target audience. But this book has now been published for money, and so we are here to criticize it. I feel
It cost me £22.
I heard the idea for this book because Lindbergh sent it to me because she likes to see me suffer. And when I saw House of the Dragon published fanfic, I was like, oh, it's going to be...
Did I do this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You always see that.
Why don't I have any memory of this?
Don't act like you don't know.
You thought you were innocent.
I thought you found it and sent it to me.
No, absolutely not. It was a House of the Dragon fanfic, and this is, from what I understand, original female character / Aemon Targaryen, who, for those who haven't watched the show, is the really alien-looking pretty boy with the eye patch out on the inside.
Played by the delightful Evan Mitchell, who's always smirking.
Yes, he is very creepy and weird looking, and he very much falls into that Bishinuen kind of...
I feel like it's not pronounced that way.
I don't really care.
Bishonen? Yes.
Bishonen, maybe. Kind of body type and appeal. And so I was like, okay, I guess it kind of makes sense. This is not the pairing I would have gone with if I was going to publish House of the Dragon fanfic, but whatever. This slots into a romanticy shell pretty well. I actually haven't watched all of the House of the Dragon. I've only watched about, I think, like 7 episodes, and then I'm aware of what happens in the rest of the series. And for no particular reason, it's excellent. I think it's so much better than all of the seasons of Game of Thrones. I just haven't gotten around to it. And so it's a little sad to see our sacred temple desecrated. So, Lindbergh, what's the premise for this story?
First of all, what you need to know going into this is that we are reading a romanticy, which means that the premise is very loose and don't pay too much attention. Anyway, we meet our main character right away. Her name is Emira, and she lives in the streets of Erlasher, which is like the main castle town of their territory. And she is a secret princess, guys. She has been secretly groomed to rule, and she's been placed under the ruling elite's noses. And now is the year that she is coming into her womanhood or something. I can't actually remember why they thought it was...
The king died, so she's got to slap up that slap up.
Oh, yeah. We kind of start right before the king dies, but the king is really old and really insane, so everyone's just kind of waiting for him to fall off the dragon. Give up the ghost, fall off
Yeah.
the dragon. Anyway.
She's been groomed by her father, as you were saying, for ruling.
Yes, her father is a secret prince.
Her father is from House of the Dragon. Also, I'm going to remember none of the names from House of the Dragon because that's one of my big problems with it is all of the Targaryen names sound the same. He's the hot uncle.
Daemon.
Daemon Targaryen, yes.
Oh, and his name is Draven? Are you kidding me?
Yeah?
She put one R in there?
It's totally
so
not
funny.
Daemon, guys. It's totally not.
Yeah, it's I was able to procure and acquire is what I was trying to put together there. The original fanfic, and I skimmed through parts of it because I thought it would be interesting to kind of go back and forth or to compare. Because spoiler alert, this book is not good. So I may bring some of that in, but I don't know too much. Anyway, go ahead. Keep going. She's a secret princess.
She's a secret princess. Her dad, who is totally not Daemon, but called Draven, is somehow related to the royal line. No, he's not. This is how it is. There's a true royal line, and then there was a curse saying that the female's line would end, and the female line was kind of the line leading the country. So instead, we have a line of usurpers who took the crown, and the current ruling king was the last person of the old royal line, and because he was cursed he couldn't have any daughters, so he just has sons. He has a whole drove of sons, and so Emira is showing up to be the true princess who's gonna end the curse.
She's the firstborn in the female line of her old family or something.
She's the firstborn girl, and since this is quite blatantly a Song of Ice and Fire fanfiction, this world is a little bit sexist, so she is royal. She's a royal bastard, So her claim is excellent in the way that she is the first female to be born, but it's also kind of bullshit because she's not pure-blooded. Or something like that.
The other thing to bear in mind is that this world has a bunch of Celtic bullshit just like spilled on top of it. And so there's all this stuff about like the old religion versus the new religion and like which one's taking over. And I think there has something to do with like bloodlines about like which woman gets in control of what. So that also contributes to it. It should just be stated right up front. There's so much world building here that's just like drizzled onto you early on that just goes in one ear and comes out the other.
Like the old bloodline was chosen by Bridget, that's
the fire goddess mommy,
and the goddess of the dragons, incidentally, and those chosen by her manifest fire magic.
I thought Bridget was really terrifying and like imposing, and then I realized it's a fire goddess and not just a 30-year-old woman with blonde hair and a Prada bag.
Well, they don't have blonde hair in this book. They've got auburn hair and green eyes. That's
where it's Scotland, guys.
Okay, so as you can tell, I should state right off the bat, I don't think this is the worst book we've read. I don't even think at times it's a particularly terrible book. I think that is through no skill of the author, though. At times, it just kind of coasts, and then you hit some bullshit that you're like, this is really dumb.
There's one section in the middle where I was like kind of having fun. I was like, okay, I'm having fun. This is again, like I've always said, I love a good romantic subplot. I'll it's just, I'll eat it up. It's delicious, tasty food. But the rest of like the whole first like third of it, I'd say I was just bored out of my mind reading it. I was just like, when are they gonna smush faces? When's something interesting gonna happen? Like, I don't care about all your world building because it doesn't really matter to the story that's happening right now. And you just keep telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, it's sliding off my smooth brain. Like all this information.
It was things that needed to happen and needed to be explained because this story was at first a fanfic, and now it's trying to be its own thing. So suddenly the author has to try and explain how any of this works.
So it's like all this exposition for us that we're not remembering because we don't care yet, and it's just like slap in the face. I'm like, okay. And it's not even that relevant later. I don't think I needed to know any of that.
Okay, the structure of this story is that the first third is new and made up by her, and it is like in the style of like an old school fantasy, like I'm a secret special princess, and that part's really weak because there's a lot of world building, but the world feels really shallow, and there's like just a lot of like, we're going here and doing this and doing that, and then the second half to 2/3 of the book clearly are the more fanficky parts where she's stuck in the forced marriage part, and like those are the more compelling parts because those are the parts the author actually cared about. But that's why shit from the beginning never means anything later, is because I'm fairly sure it was bolted on after the fact.
I would just like to start by saying that I don't know if my brain has eroded to a fine dust, but I thought this was kind of good.
Like I said, I was with you for part of it.
You are the problem with society.
I mean, it's not good, but I was entertained.
This is why she wore glasses. She came here. She knew she was going to lose a lot of street cred, and she was like, okay, maybe I can pretend to be smart if I have glasses on. Okay, so I will say, just to respond quickly, that there again, I feel until about like the last fourth of this book, I was like, oh, that happened. I don't care. But also, this is fine. Like, it's not bad, really. It's just boring and bad. But it's not actively, up in your grill about how stupid it is. And then the last fourth, it gets real dumb with some of the things it does, and it escalates quickly. And that's the part where I really began to find myself annoyed. I also think you're forgetting the sex scenes, Limburg.
The way they're written, oh my gosh.
I have deleted them from my mind. Never talk to me about them again.
I agree with you, Lindbergh, though, because like the lead up to them, I was like, okay. But then like the sex scene actually started. I'm just like, oh, this language, ma'am, must you do this to me?
It was so terrible. But I'm like the girly. I could write Eamon fanfic.
We could fix this. We could fix this.
It was actually not that OOC in the beginning, and he was kind of bitchy, and I was kind of.
Me too. I've got this whole thing that I thought was happening. I was convinced up until like more than halfway through the book that this was what was happening. And I was so wrong, and I was like, how? She bamboozled me. I thought this was going to be good.
You guys are about to lose your internships, and I need Maria to get back from break stat. This is unacceptable.
Listen.
This is not what we do here.
I like that he was a bitch in the end. I wish the author had gone further with it.
I thought it was so stupid.
He's not going to be, though.
The way it was done. Yeah. We're going to get to it. Let's go into the plot.
Okay, guys. I guess, all right. Hey, Limburg, why don't you describe this book you love so much? How does it start?
I have no idea.
Here, I got the first part in because I read this one. I was like PMSing and I was pissed off. So I remember like the first couple of chapters. So the first line of this book, I'm going to read it just so you guys know what we're getting into.
Oh, the first line is so cringy. Yeah, you guys have to do this.
As Amira crouched in front of the laboring mother, she came to the sudden realization that she only enjoyed having her face between a woman's legs when she was screaming out in pleasure, not in pain. So we immediately get that this girl is, a little gay. We're told she seems very gay. In fact, it's told to us over and over again that she mostly sleeps with women. I'll get into my little headcanons later, or we have to get through this. So she's helping. She's like a kind of midwifing, I guess, or being doctor, helping deliver this baby. She doesn't like doing it that much. She prefers being a blacksmith, which is her second job.
Most of all, she would prefer to be a queen.
God.
We're immediately introduced to her brother, Andarian. Or Adarian. Okay, I'm not even going to try to do the Celtic names right. Okay, guys? I'm consistent across all cultures. I don't care about pronouncing your names right. And he is, her twin brother. He also doesn't like women giving childbirth moments. And she's like kind of weirdly bantering with him at times. And I know that one of the three of us felt a little uncomfortable by it. I'm not going to say who.
I felt like their relationship was just a tinge to the way she describes him, like 3 times in the first chapter. His sapphire eyes, his dark eyes, and then later she describes how strong and muscular and sculpted his legs are, and I'm just like, Does this woman have siblings? Are you like?
The thing about it, I think, is the author has a poor sense of describing from someone's point of view, because later on during one of the sex scenes, she's like, and then he reached, it's not in first person, but he reached behind Amira and slid his hand along the substantial curve. I'm like, who thinks of their own butt as a substantial curve? What?
Yeah, let me think about my own substantial curves.
Yeah, like that's not a thing. That's a thing you're describing so like I kind of think that maybe what's happening.
Huge shapely ass.
It says that at one point, and I was like, okay.
I have to tell you guys, I listened to these sex scenes aloud in the stables with my mom in the room.
And the horses too? Did the horses hear them?
The horses were thankfully out, because I have horse babies
thank goodness.
right now, and they were not ready to hear this. But
no,
my mom did not invite me for dinner today, and I wonder if this book had anything to do with it.
I'm going to be honest, I think she may have lost her appetite for dinner. But we're going to take a sadly long amount of time to get to the sex scenes.
Birth scene, brother shows up. We get a really inappropriate description of how hot the twin brother is.
And also the twin Amira immediately makes a joke, like, because her brother like makes a face. He's like, "What? Never seen one before?" About this woman's lady parts while she's giving birth, and he's like, "Not like that." And I'm like, "She's right there. She's like awake. She can hear you."
Yeah, and she's in labor, guys. Shut the fuck up.
How about we make a joke about how she's never going to poop right again? Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Yeah.
The like he here ho 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 like banter, so bad.
It's real bad in the first third, where she's clearly trying to write in prose how she thinks people in the show talk and banter, and so like it's real awkward at times. She's also trying to do secret feisty warrior princess a lot, and it's not her strong suit. Amira is so annoying.
She's so annoying.
Yeah, she is so incredibly annoying, and I think that is one of the main points to why I ended up liking this book in the end, because all this, because usually in romantasy we get the MC, and the MC is like super self-centered, and they do all these dumb things, and in the end they get everything, and everything works out good. But here it was like, haha, and then it didn't work out good, and I was like, yeah, give me more.
It's gonna work out all good in the sequel. I hate to break this to you. I don't think the author is being avant-garde.
Maybe the sequel is about the twin brother, and that's why he gets all these sexy, weird descriptions.
No. Okay, good point. Maybe he has trauma he can dump on her at some point. Okay, so they go out of the forge. What you need to know is that she lives with her foster family, who are darker skinned, so they'll die pretty quickly.
Wait, well, was the woman giving birth in the forge?
No. She was in she goes outside after she's done with the little baby, and she's like, "Oh wow, women in pain. I've never given birth, but I sure can relate to women pain, because all women share sort of like a mind connection of we're oppressed."
Terrible new pain.
And it's getting worse, because there's a bunch of faux Christians going around saying we can't have sex with people, and that we're terrible, and we can't do magic.
When she's done with that job, she goes outside to her second job, where she's a blacksmith with her brother, and the Prince and his brother are in town. They're walking around. They're looking for a little sword. Apparently, our main character's brother was tasked with making the sword. And Amira immediately sees this Prince character, and she's like, "This guy's bitch. I should be on the throne." But also, he's kind of cute, though. He's got long, like, dark red hair.
He's so clear. Bitch prince, but
I'm getting Rain flashbacks with this description, but like, green eyes, and she's like, "Wow, he's kind of hot, but men." And then like he looks at her boobs at one point, and she's like, "I can tell he wasn't doing it because he was attracted to me. He was doing it because he doesn't think a woman can make a sword." And I'm like,
so weird.
I'm sorry, what? Like, what's your logic? He's looking at you, and you think it's because he's like checking to see if I'm a woman, and then knows that I'm not competent. And I'm like,
immediately we get to the point where fantasy, certain types of authors just don't know how to be subtle because we could have just gotten a scene where we kind of view him as he does an appraisal of her, and then we could, intuit what that means from how he acts about it. But instead, she's like, and then he did this, and it meant that, and probably sexist.
I need to tell you guys, I need to step on my little soapbox right now. I'll get into it more as the plot progresses, but this is where it starts. So I thought as soon as, Fiorian is the name of the pretty boy that she thinks is very cute. His brother,
stand-in.
the Eamon stand-in. And while she is looking at him and like noticing like he has a pretty face and he's got this long hair sort of like a svelte sort of build, and I was like, okay, we've established over and over again at this point early in the book that this woman prefers the company of other women for the most part. And I thought we were doing a Mulan, you guys. I thought Fiorian was a full was dressed up like as a male, just to be like a powerful figure within his family, and we were going to get this romance that builds, and she's like, well, man, I don't really typically like men, and then we're going to get this reveal later. I was so convinced that's what was happening.
And why they contest her claim for the throne so much would make so much more sense if they already had a girl.
Oh, that would have been such better tension and like between them, and oh my, it would have been so cool.
Yeah, and he could have been like androgynous, slightly butch,
I know, it would have been so good. I was like, oh, is this gonna be like a good romance in like a romantasy book?
A good twist.
They banter a little bit, like they're clearly attracted to each other.
I want to say about the boob line and not being able to make swords. I think what it is that she put a prompt into ChatGPT was that generate for me a sensual line that hints at the inner attraction while also showing off that my character can do cool things and also deals with sexism. And the computer was like, I'm so tired. Here, just write this down. Because it really does feel like it was her trying to like achieve 4 things and not actually doing any of them well.
Doing all of them badly, yeah.
The sexism in this book is so typical of romantasy. A huge issue I have with most romantasy books is that they always do, like, this person took intro to racism, intro to sexism, like, feminism 101. Yeah. And they're like, I know what I should do. I should put that in my story. And you can put those themes into your story or fantasy story and have it done well. You absolutely can. But it's always just like, women 101. We're oppressed sometimes, guys.
It's so like super informed, super modern. Like,
it's so modern.
Some people are just born with the innate knowledge that women should have rights.
There's so many just like little quotes where she's like, it's so hard, like, like a women oppressed sad face, and like, this isn't working. Like, correct, women oppressed, correct, but you're not handling it in a way that makes sense, and it's just so like stupid. And
it's just thrown in there to signal.
She tries to do these really heavy things later, and the foundation of Feminism 101 can't hold up these heavy themes that she's trying to do. So it just crumbles, and you're like, whoa, but what?
Her brother has made a sword. Immediately she sees that, the sword's balance is all wrong, because at the top of the pommel is a huge, is it a
garnet?
Sapphire?
Garnet, I think.
And as anyone who has watched the show knows, a certain gem plays a rather integral part in the character that Fiorian is based off of. But here it's a gem on top of a sword that is balanced. Yeah, it's balanced all wrong, and she's like, I could have made you a better sword than that. And
what a fucking dick move. It's your brother who made it.
She says it in front of him. She's like, I could do better than, like, he just sort of like laughs it off. I'm like, that's like a really bitchy thing to say.
Also, one thing that, makes me crazy, that I just hate when reading fantasy, is when normal people, like peasants, or just regular people, are confronted with nobility, and they're like little angry dogs, as if immediately that just makes me unable to suspend my disbelief, because that is not how you talk to royalty. I mean, I am a modern woman. If I saw if the king showed up at my farm, I'd be like, oh, your highness.
Also, like, why didn't they like send servants to pick up the sword?
Let's also remember that, as we all learned in Pirates of the Caribbean, the blacksmith goes to the Lord to give them the sword. They don't come to the podunk.
Yeah, they're like walking through the dingy streets like, hey, I'm a prince. I'm here to pick up my sword. You don't do that when you're...
With a fucking sapphire that like has been in a place without a lock this whole time. Like it's so like a person, it's almost cute and quaint in the way that like a 14-year-old would have written a fantasy epic like 20 years ago.
Yeah, like I ran into the prince at the supermarket.
I'm ready to excuse it because they had to meet somehow. And
again, I actually feel like this first third is almost it's not good, but it's almost like quaint in how bad it is and how it's bad.
He could have shown up with, a whole set of guards and been like all showy and, showing up the common poor people, as opposed to him just showing up in person alone, because that makes absolutely zero sense. But, a prince might get bored up in his castle. He might want to go down and see how the common folk live. But then he should have the retinue of a royal, because, he kind of matters.
It's real dumb that this happens at all and that she's trying to stay low and undercover, but then they did a job for the prince that they're going to try to replace. Again, it's like Val said, it's very, I ran into the prince at the shopping mall.
I'm going to tell you, Will, the less you question these things, the happier you're going to get.
That is not the brand of this channel. That is not who I am as a person. You know nothing about me. I cannot go, oh, that was stupid. Let's move on.
I didn't pay that much attention during this beginning part because I was so bored. And I don't know what order things happen in, because I know at one point her and her brother, her twin, Adarian, like, are kind of walking around and they see like a sort of like a theater play happening and they stop and watch it and it gives us some world building.
The prince, he takes the sword, they snip against each other and then he leaves, he fucks off. And she and her brother are out walking and they see this theater group who's putting on a performance of the king. And she's like, oh, here we're going to get the official propaganda again. And instead,
she straight up tells us like halfway through how boring it is after she dumps all this lore on us. And then her main character is like, this is boring. And I'm like, so you're telling me, the reader, about how boring all of this lore dump is?
Yes, like, let me tell you how the world works. And then the main character is like, oh, this is so boring. And you're like, yeah, right?
Like I said in our Serpents review, Linny, like it's like the author's trying to hang a lampshade on it, but the lampshade just keeps falling off.
It's so clumsy. And what's weird is then all of a sudden the puppet show decides to be subversive and gets caught by the guards. And you're like, what?
They decide to be subversive and tell the real story of how the women would be the ones to save the bloodline and the kingdom. And immediately they get all arrested and because they are spreading blasphemy, and that has been outlawed by this church group who has come from another city across the sea and has kind of taken over with the queen that the current king imported.
Which is basically evil Catholic Catholicism.
For us Song of Ice and Fire nerds, let's imagine that you have merged the armed up church that Cersei, she gives the power back to the church militant.
Faith militant.
And then you mix that with the grey mice, the maesters, who wants to end magic in the world. And that's how you get this kind of... And then Catholicism.
You're giving it way too much credit. These are like discount Christians. Like they're such... The thing is, this book struggles so much when it has to do any world building that isn't basically just copying House of the Dragon. So like, for example, we haven't mentioned it, but yes, the royals ride dragons, but everybody gets to like all different cultures. There's all different kinds of animals you can bond with that do flying things like firebirds and griffins and dragonflies. I don't think dragonflies is one of them.
That is Celtic lore though. It's thrown in for flavor, and you can tell that it's thrown in for flavor.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And the parts of this book that aren't from House of the Dragon are real dumb because it feels very like the green people can do green magic.
It's not like she just made stuff up. Like, for example, Fourth Wing. Like, she just made up, like, oh, there's dragons and there's griffins because I like dragons and griffins. Like, she has pasted this onto her story in order for it to fit. But it's actually, it is drawing from somewhere, at least.
I think she is Scottish, the author, I'm pretty sure.
She's Scottish, but she lives in the Netherlands since 5-10 years.
This is the thing we learn about the the Celtic culture stuff is that like, oh, there are magic users endemic to this land called doulas, which is okay. Here's the thing: I don't think they have this in Sweden, but in America, a doula is someone who helps.
It's
like
not pronounced that way. It's not pronounced that way. It's
but
doula.
it sounds like she's saying it that way at 2 times speed, which is what I listened to this at, and so I could not take them seriously the entire book.
That is not the book's problem, though, Will.
It is 1,000% the book's problem.
No, it's dulach. Dulach. It's glottal.
But okay, so yes, maybe these things are based in like Celtic culture or something, but really what it means is you get to have a psychic connection with an animal, and it gets to be a lot of cool different animals. It's like a middle schooler was like, what if we had cavalry that wasn't just cavalry, but also mooses?
And it's always fire magic, right? Or am I mistaken about that?
No, I think because there is a fire bird, and originally I was like, oh, clever. She went from fire dragons to firebirds, but then it's also like griffins and like chimera.
All the Celtic mythical beings.
Yeah, the chimera.
There is chimera.
Chimera is Greek.
Yeah, maybe not by that name, but there is chimera in Scottish.
I think it may be imported from Greek. Anyway, as Val was saying, yeah, it doesn't play in a ton amount. What you need to know is that dragons are super special, and there's only 3 left, and they're not going to breed anymore.
Because there's no more girl dragons, guys. Just like there's no more girls in the royal family.
And the Faith Militant arrest this troop of mummers. Sorry, I want to use the Song of Ice and Fire terminology because that's how my brain works. They arrest this troop of puppeteers.
They're called Covenanters. The Catholics are Covenanters, I believe.
Yes, it's in the dictionary.
It's
Thank
so
you.
stupid.
They arrest them, and you immediately understand that they're going to be sentenced to die, so something horrible. Because what they have done is illegal.
We get news suddenly that the king has died. Or
No, that happens later.
She goes
First,
to the
she's
bar.
got to go and prove, her bi bona fides.
Yes, she does in fact sleep with her the local bar tender, who's sort of a hot lady named Sorsha.
Will she have a single thought in this book about Sorsha that's like not even like romantic, but like friendly, or like we talked more than twice? Or sexual. There's like, it's the most add-on character possible.
And we get once again how evil the Catholics are, because they're immediately like, women are for giving birth and making babies. And if you sleep with other women, you're not using your womb for the church. And then these people are evil.
And then everyone in the bar is like, no, that's not cool. We support women. And there's like, there's going to be a popular movement. And you're like, the author's laying foundations for her stupid cultural clash.
We follow the old faith here. Hail to Bridget. We support women. #feminism.
#feminism. Yay.
The question I want to ask, though, is that why do we open the book with her talking about how she likes making women scream out of pleasure, and then have her bonk a female barmaid, and it's talked about how they have been doing this for many years, and then we just go to white male love interest.
I'm going to talk about it later, because this is why I thought we were doing a Mulan. I was 100%, like in my head, I was like 95% certain that this was going to be revealed, because
it feels like setup.
Even when they're doing some like sexy stuff later, like we don't talk about feeling he keeps his pants on for a long time, let's just say. So I was like, and even when he takes his shirt off, there's like a bunch of scars. I'm like, are we doing fantasy top surgery?
There was plausible deniability. Yeah,
I was like, maybe we're doing a fantasy top surgery, guys. This is cool. I was so sure.
That would have been so much better. I didn't, because I knew this was fanfic.
Yeah, I knew this was Amond, so
But honestly, Fem Amond fanfic was kind of a great idea. That's such a cool AU.
Oh, Famond.
Yeah, exactly. That would be such a cool AU, actually, alternate universe, for those people who... I should state, I used to read a shit ton of fanfic. I don't talk about it that much anymore on the podcast, but if you go back to the early years, I'd admit to my shame quite readily. And so, like, again, that's one of the reasons... anyway, I'll talk more about fanfic later, but I would have loved to see Famond. And Mulan's style. Here's what's happening, I think, with Sorsha and the bi-ness. I think what happened is it was not a part of the original fic. And so when she was rewriting it, and it should be noted that this is quite heavily rewritten. This isn't 50 Shades of Grey where just the names were changed, but everything else stayed the same, or a few of the other published fanfic. Like this has been changed quite a lot. But I think it's an element she decided.
Like she was like, I have to change a lot, otherwise I'm gonna get my ass sued.
It feels a lot like she already had the structure, and then she was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if they were bi representation, or my character's bi?
And I love bi representation. Don't get me wrong. Like that's great. And even like straight passing bi couples, I'm in a relationship like that right now. That's fine. I'd love to see it. But it's
her boyfriend is not straight passing, but go ahead. Just kidding. Go ahead. Shout out, Kyle.
Shout out, Kyle. You look gay. Anyway, I do like. I love to see that stuff. It's just the book was hammering it in so hard early that like the promise of like that we are probably going to see some like some girl love happening here was there. And I was like, delicious food. Give this to me. And then they're like, no, actually, this man so good at sex stuff that she fixed her man problems. Now it's
I'm
great.
gonna have to complain about that when we get to the sex scenes because
she's like, I didn't know men could do this.
The problem with it is because it was added after the fact, it suffers from a lot of the problems that trying to be inclusive after you've already set up your world have. You see this sometimes on like network television where all of a sudden like third season in a character will come out as bi and they have like an episode or two where they date someone using their bi powers, but like the long-term romances have already been set up. So it's like, okay, you can't, not that bi people have to date the opposite gender to be valid. It's cool. Don't, Val, chill out.
I was clearly freaking out.
No, but it's one of these things where like the fundamentals of the story have already been set up in a way that you can't just add that to the top and have it mean anything. It doesn't. It can be just stripped away because it was stripped on to begin with, or patched on to begin with. This is not a story where like this was an X where she really needed to think a lot about Sorsha in terms of how she started to understand her religion better or something. So Sorsha would have had an impact on her past. She's like, this book is just here for her and Eamon to go like this.
And the book continues to try to make Sorsha important and like meaningful, and it's annoying because there's just nothing there.
The book pretends to care about Sorsha, and that pretends is much more annoying than if we would just went flat out and said, yeah, she doesn't have any female friends. She's an FMC in a romantic. Duh.
It's just like Misha in Servants.
Yeah.
It's like
you were so traumatized.
It's like, I know you're not interested in writing female friendships. The reader is usually not that interested in your female friendships. Like, let's just stop pretending, guys.
Let's stop pretending. Just like let's make their faces smush.
You can tell how she's trying to make these things work in the fact that the old religion is open to bi-ness, and the old religion does celebrate women and women's agencies in a way. And then this new Catholicism has come in and been all like, now women should give birth and do nothing. But the thing is that these elements, this current conflict between religion and, rights, doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to the story because we don't care.
This will be a massive part of the story, and it will mean nothing. This divide between the old religion and the new. It's just talked about in terms of like sexism, and even the sexism actually doesn't mean anything by the end of the book. Also, Dazzler. I had to say it after I finished talking because I have to cut this.
I know. You don't have to cut Dazzler out. She needs
star power.
She needs star power.
Back in the bar, they like beat up the Catholic priest, and then her dad shows up, and her dad's like, "Are you ready?" And she's like, "Oh, my hot dad's here. He's been training me in secret this whole time."
Because we got news that the king has died.
Right away again, it's like, why is this dad so weirdly hot? Like, what is going on? Why is he acting like a rock star? Like,
I pictured him like kind of like an old, like washed up rock star dad, honestly.
Yeah, totally. I was like, this is clearly Damon. And the author is clearly kind of a fan of Damon as well, so she can't make him like a weird sociopath dude that he kind of is. So instead, he's like, look, star dad, hey, we're going to take back your rightful throne. And she likes to really, straddle that line of, is daddy good or is daddy bad?
I think that's one of the things that, and we'll talk about this more as we go, but one of the legacies of this originally being a fic, because I didn't figure out it was Damon for at least like 5 or 6 chapters. I was like, who is this dad supposed to?
You silly.
I was like, who is this supposed to be? And I was like, this character, because the character just kind of feels flat and very like, haha, I'm clearly going to be evil later. And like, once you realize it's Damon, the character suddenly becomes more, I wouldn't say interesting, but you're like, oh, okay, I can bring everything I know about that character to this character. And that's a fundamental difference between how fanfic and published fiction works, is that in fanfic, you are already being informed by the canon and also the fanon around these characters. And so, like I read a little bit of the fanfic version of this, and yeah, Eamon seems more in character. He punches off the screen a little bit more because you're imagining the actor there who you know what they look like. Subconsciously, you're just assuming it's this character who you already have a connection with and already know things about. And that's kind of the problem, is that she doesn't go through the work to reestablish who these people are through their presence on screen and their actions, because this is Damon. You're supposed to know he's like roguish and kind of a bad guy at the same time.
Instead, Daddy just pops in out of nowhere and it's like, hey, princess, you ready to claim your birthright? And immediately he shines like this kind of rock star. And without context, I can totally see how you're just kind of flabbergasted as to what this character is doing and why he's there.
I was so confused by him. Like, I didn't know, like, am I supposed to like is he setting up to be like a betrayal or like evil character? Like, I couldn't get a read on him, like, as like a person who doesn't know like the source material of this.
Yeah, and when you know the source material, you know that part of Damon's character is that you can kind of read him, but he's also, one of those characters who likes to play both roles, like a bit of bad, a bit of good, and he's kind of what's the word? Impulsive. Like he'll swing one way one day and another way the other day.
That's not what I got from this guy at all. Like,
the thing is that Damon in the show is because I had originally read Martin's short story about the Dance of Dragons, which is like just from a very aerial point of view, and I didn't like Damon. I thought he was just a dick in that story. And then when I started watching the show, I saw what the writers and the actor were doing with them.
Everyone's a dick in that story, but it's also a chronicle, like, written after the fact, and yeah, it's very impersonal, all of it, and everyone acts terribly.
Damon in the show is actually fairly complex in how he acts and reacts to things. There's clearly an amount, for example, that he loves his brother, but he is also jealous of his brother. He's clearly acting from insecurities at certain times and not at others. There is an extent to which he's just kind of a child, but also kind of has a massive dragon, so he can do what he wants, so it kind of makes sense.
He wants to rule, but he obviously doesn't really know why he wants to rule. He just wants it because he's the little brother and he never got the shiny things.
But at the same time, he really wants his brother to love him, and so he'll at times be nice. Yeah, and all of that is not in Draven. So Draven's like such a pale shadow.
I was so bored by like the relationship she had with Draven and her brother Adarian, because it just felt so like these are two like woke feminist kings supporting their daughter to like send her to the throne, because her brother is always like, I have no interest in being king and being on the throne. I'm just here to serve you, milady. And her
I
like
have no interest in anything except my sister.
And I'm like, okay, so no conflict whatsoever within the family dynamics. They just want her to be queen and to be the best girl queen of all time. And like, it doesn't really change at all throughout the book. It's just kind of like we support our girl boss daughter. Even like there's like they try almost, but they don't follow through on
there's
it all
almost
the way.
an idea that Draven wants her to be in power because he wants to be in power.
Maybe.
And like, but it's mentioned once and then never really there again. And by the end, they're closer.
Yeah, it's let go, because when this was a fanfic, that made perfect sense. But now that it's its own work, it's just like, it's not really there.
And that's the thing, is you need to put in the work to reestablish what the fanfic, who the people are from the fanfic and what it means. And this book doesn't. This book spends a shit ton of time explaining Celtic shit in the first third instead of doing that and grounding us in the characters.
So like I have a question just from plot points, because I know that shit happens in between here. I know that she leaves. She gets her dragon, or she tries to get a dragon. It doesn't work. She goes and she finds an even cooler, more badass, bigger dragon, and turns out it's a girl. And then she learns that her family gets killed, and then she shows up at the castle. I don't remember if there's anything between those points. I just sort of bounce between. Sorry.
I love how you forgot like half of it, but not the important parts. The important parts you actually did remember.
It was so boring.
Daddy shows up and he's like, "You're ready to claim your birthright, princess." And she's like, "Yeah, I've been training my whole life. You have trained me my whole life, Daddy, for this. And yet somehow no one has noticed because I'm so good at posing as a blacksmith. He has trained her in swords her whole life. How? Where? When?" Anyway, so her first task in order to claim her birthright is to get a dragon. And obviously, since the king's dragon was a symbol of the right to rule, she's going to try and claim the king's dragon now that he is dead.
What I find fascinating is you guys are both forgetting a very pivotal scene in the book. After the king dies, she goes and gets coronated and bitches at the king's family who shows up and like is like, "Who are you?" And then Bridget, the god of fire, is like, "No, she is the real queen." And they're like, "Okay, we're going to call a truce for now."
I do vaguely remember that. I was so bored. So bored.
"Oh yeah, Daddy's like, ready to claim your birthright, girly?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then they show up to do it.
Yeah, you both way forgot.
No, honestly, that's how much it mattered.
Just slipped off my smooth brain.
And that's how little sense it makes that you just out of the blue with no backing just show up and like, "Hey, I'm gonna be queen now."
I remember that scene now that you mentioned it. I'm like, oh, this feels important. Did not stick. Did not lodge.
It's another place where like the queen is clearly Alicent Hightower, who the author doesn't like, but like where Alicent is a really interesting character. The author's like, she's not that cool.
She's a mindless zombie who follows the faith without a single thought, and she's like the instigator to all this. She's not a girl's girl.
That's actually exactly what it's like.
Exactly what it is.
I'll talk about this later, but she's a perfect example of how this book doesn't really want to think about feminism in a complex way, in the way that like House of the Dragon does. But Val is correct. She needs to get the king's old dragon, but she runs into two idiots in the woods who are Evander and Furion.
Who are the men that she met at the blacksmith earlier, one of them being very sexy.
Evander is Joffrey, and or the guy who lost his dick in the fire, but like a combination of the two.
Evander Aemon's brother, but in this book, he's also clearly influenced a lot by Joffrey.
So he's gonna be the heir, but he's kind of like bitchy.
No, he's not. He's not just bitchy. He is like, insert sexism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because he shows up
exactly.
and immediately he's like gross to our main Emira.
That's his one personality trait, being sexist, pretty much.
No, and they get into a slap fight in the woods because she wants the dragon, but he wants the dragon, and then he gets the dragon, and like this is a massive failure. And then they don't bother trying to capture each other. They just both parties go back to the city. Never mind that she's like the only legitimacy they have to their cause.
Furion stops her from getting the dragon, and they have a fight. And during this fight, she kind of beats him up, and she steals the jewel off his sword. And is that not this time?
No, it's hilarious how much of this you guys are forgetting.
I don't remember anything until we get to the castle.
Very quickly, let me just get past that because that is the only important part.
No, but she fights him once. She steals his jewel, and she doesn't get a dragon.
Remember when she's leaving on the docks is when she beats him up and takes his jewel?
Where is she going?
She's escaping. Remember? You guys.
Wait, how does she not get the dragon then?
They get into a slap fight and Evander gets there first. I'm telling you, this is not a good book.
How can Evander get there first? He's so sucky. Like, he doesn't actually do anything.
I'm dying.
Guys, here's what happens. They get into a slap fight. Evander gets the dragon. They go back to the city. Her dad's like, well, you did a shitty job there. But also, they smuggled in a bunch of Catholics who have anti-magic. And they're going to win if we get into a fight.
That's how. Yeah, like her magic got taken away, right? So he kind of
No.
tricked her. So
No.
Limburg, no.
That doesn't-
How did Evander get to the dragon before her?
Limburg
It
read
doesn't make
read
any
this like a fanfic. She was just skimming the scenes till she got to the interesting
Wait,
parts.
that doesn't make any sense. Fiora was there, wasn't he?
I'm dying.
No. Somehow he didn't make it to the dragon first, and it was because Fiora kept her back, wasn't it? Okay, she did. Okay, fine.
Sorry.
She didn't steal his jewel this time, but clearly, Fiorian was somehow stopping her because there's.
What were you doing while you were listening to this part?
Okay, right. So the Catholics have anti-magic. That means they would win. So they have to go away from the city. The High Priestess gets stabbed in the back by Alicent because Alicent is not a girl's girl.
Oh yeah, and the High Priestess has been spying for Draven. The Priestess has been giving them information, and she has been working for them. And then before they had this conversation where she's like, "I'm still the faith. I still have my place at court." And Alicent, who is. What's her name in this one?
Oh, wait, is this the mother of Fiorian and
Yes.
Evander? That's Catherine.
Oh my god, why Catherine? Anyway, never mind. Catherine, she still respects me, you know, she wouldn't hurt me. And then on the scene at the docks, they just kill the priestess before them, and it's supposed to be this, you know, big betrayal. And you're like, okay, every single person saw that coming, you know, my dude.
And so they have to flee the city. And in fleeing the city, Fiorian Fiorian gets into another fight with Ymira. This is where she takes
Wait,
Wait,
is he trying to stop them from escaping the city?
yes.
But they have dragons, and they're trying to escape on a ship.
Yeah, I know. And the dragon is above, I think. Yeah, no, it is very stupid. Yes, I was wondering about that. And her dad's dragon doesn't even show up till later. Like, at least it would have made sense if they were like, oh, I don't necessarily want to get into a fight with another dragon. No, they just...
What a good thing that Fiorian shows up and gets his ass handed to him by this girl when he could have just sent his dragon to make a fish stick out of her.
Okay, but yes, it's one of those things where they're fighting on the docks and she like smacks his head into the ground and takes his jewel, and you're like, this would have made a lot more sense if it was his eye, like in the show. But whatever. They get on the dragon. They go back to whatever their city is called.
R/Slasher.
No, R/Slasher is the main city that they've been in this whole.
Arschlasser.
Okay, that's the other thing, guys, is that the way it's pronounced in the book sounds like R/Slasher, so I kept thinking it was a subreddit.
When you said that to me, I was like, you're probably being dramatic. But then I got to that point in the audiobook and I was like, it sounds like they're saying R/Slasher.
Yeah, like the subreddit of the medieval age, I guess. They get back there. There's a bunch of politicking. This is the part of the book where you're like, this is real boring. Like, this is depending on your own world building, and there's not a lot of it. The world feels like it exists as far as your arm can stretch, and that's it. Everything else is just white.
They escape on the ship through the docks. She has stolen his jewel, which is totally not his eye because he's totally not Aemond. And they go to this other island where they start politicking, and then they somehow end up showing up at a village that has been attacked. And at first they think it's someone, like it's the other people who have attacked it, but it turns out that it's one of the wild dragons who's known as the Terror, who has just burned the whole place down. And she's like,
Yes.
oh, wait, I failed to get that dragon. You know, my only way to claim my birthright is to get a new a dragon. So, you know, obviously, since I'm the most special, super nice, kind girl who is the bestest ever and chosen by Bridget, I'm going to go get this legendary dragon that has just killed a whole village of people. And, you know, since it's romantasy, it works out. She gets the dragon. She impresses her by... I don't remember how she impresses the dragon.
Being dumb, like being like, I'm the firstborn daughter of the blah, blah, blah.
And the kids, and the dragon's like, I like your spunk, is like the thing.
But the dragons don't like talk or actually,
No.
like, it's just vibes, all pure vibes-based communication.
You know how, like, one of the cool things about A Song of Ice and Fire and House of the Dragon is that the dragons aren't treated as, like, cool dogs, but instead as nuclear weapons with the temperament of wild animals.
Nuclear, not nuclear.
So, for example, Dany in A Dance with Dragons, her dragon is a metaphor for how much does she just want to burn down this corrupt system versus how much will that hurt innocence. the dragon is a temptation to loose the fire. Even in House of the Dragon, for example, one of the changes they make is that Aemon's dragon eats the dragon of one of the boys he's chasing and that he's trying to scare. His dragon is like, I'm a dragon, I don't really understand limits, and he just chomps through them. And that's one of the big things that starts the war. And it's like, yeah, you can't really control this nuclear weapon of an animal. And this book is like, well, why don't we go back and just make them like kind of fun guard dogs? And not use them as a metaphor for anything or really have them impact the world. Yeah, that's what we get with her terror. What did she call it? She names it something vaguely terror.
Terea, I believe.
Terea, so stupid.
It sounds like terror almost.
And then what happens is, she goes back. We hear, and again, we kind of skipped over this real fast, but she was living with a foster family with her brother, who she thinks of as like her real family, and they were brown. And you were like, oh, okay, they're not gonna. Surviving is not a thing that's on the table for them.
What, they were brown?
It's mentioned at one point that they had darker skin.
It is mentioned at one point. It's not important, or it's just a scene dressing.
She just was like, oh, I'm rewriting this, I should add some gays and blacks.
Why do you add them if you're just gonna kill them?
It is a good question.
They get news that they didn't get out of the city okay, and now they're dead, and one of them was a small child, and she flies into a fury and is like, I'm gonna kill Furion.
She makes the incredibly smart decision.
Our smart girl.
She goes, okay, I go through my dad's desk and I find out where he is and I fly over there. And the thing is, this moment is real weird because you're supposed to be with the emotion of her being furious at this man who murdered her family. And he's doing like sexy, smooth banter fighting, and it's so the tone is so weird. They don't match for she thinks he just murdered her family, and she doesn't really confront him about this. It's just kind of like, I'm mad at you. There's never a moment where you as the reader are supposed to go, oh my god, what an asshole, he murdered her family and now he's acting like this to her, because you're just kind of I don't even think I think it's just the fanfic and the original part melding in a way that doesn't make sense and creates a new meaning that's really weird, because this should be a moment where you as the reader are like, what a fucking asshole.
Yeah, it's just plainly badly written.
And she's like, the author is trying so hard to make us believe that this is a real threat. She might actually kill him and she's just gonna stab him. But like, you the reader know, like, that's not, we know what kind of book this is. That's not gonna happen. And like, that's like one of the problems with romantasy is like, we know the genre convention of romance is that they're gonna probably get together in the end.
I'll be honest, knowing the canon, knowing what this is based on, I was like, damn it, I just a little bit have to hand it to this author with how deep she goes with how much of a douche he is. Like, killing someone's family is pretty mean.
Well, he didn't, though. He didn't.
Yeah, she kind of retcons it a little bit later, but at that point I was like, damn girl, you're really going in for this enemies to lovers thing.
I will say, like, this, as far as enemies to lovers goes, she leaned into it more. She put more enemies into it than most other authors.
This is a good time to point out that pretty much all three of us would actually be really down for a dark, toxic romance kind of a book. Like, that to me would be really cool. And I think that's one of the sad things about this is Aemon does have all of his villain elements and just kind of scratched away and rubbed off so that he's just a much paler character. Whereas like in the show, yeah, he's not a good dude, but that would be interesting as a character. That has verve. But romantasy is coming at a time when everyone has to be all characters have to be morally good. And so they only can seem like a bad boy. They can't actually have real edge to them.
They need to be feminists. They all need to be feminists. Otherwise they're unforgivable. And like, it's just exhausting to read all the time. Like,
yeah, I wish you would have gone like a lot harder.
We're going to get into it later because it comes up where he's like, actually, I've been kind of a feminist the whole time. And she's like, you've been kind of a feminist, but like not a real feminist. By the way, women are suffering in America too.
Yeah, and there's this big discussion about reproduction rights and do women have the utmost right to their own bodies, and
Oh yeah, that was so random.
You can have discussions like this in a fantasy universe, but it's just so taken from the world that we know and just like sort of sprinkled into this fantasy world that it seems put a lot of thought into.
Yeah, it's like, hey, do you remember Roe and Wade?
There's literally a part where like she's like, and women will always have power over their bodies, and it's like it's real weird because it comes out of nowhere. Let's not forget her feminist act of being loud during sex to show the disempowered women that that's what sex should say.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
So stupid. Right now, and she gets captured, and this is the part. This is the like forced marriage part of like the book, and this is the part of the book that's less objectionable because it's just kind of very slice of life. I have to live with the guy who's my enemy.
Considering what an incredibly stupid choice it was to try and figure out where the prince was and then go and kill him, I'm actually kind of glad that she got captured and
She deserved this.
forced into a marriage. Like, you didn't deserve to get what you wanted there, girl. That was a very bad take.
This part is like, okay, she's in the castle. It's a lot of like, he doesn't have sex with her when they get married because obviously he's a feminist.
Oh, it's so funny because like the whole ceremony is so sexist because like a whole crowd of like chanting men like follow them to the bedroom. They're like, yeah, someone's gonna get laid, and they're like outside.
Yeah, they're doing the bedding ceremony from A Game of Thrones.
They're like, Catholics need to make sure that you are having sex.
Oh my god, wait, I have to see if I can find a quote.
I feel like calling them Catholics is actually doing too much service because Catholics at least like have a culture and gravitas, and these are just gray pseudo-Christians. Like, that's really it. Like, there's nothing about them that other than you're supposed to know they're based on Christians, but not a specific denomination. If you were looking at pagan versus Christianity in terms of gender and gender ideas, it's more than just paganism good, women have choices, and like Christianity bad. Like those are tied into different concepts in the religions and belief systems. And like one of the things actually that early Christianity people liked was that it was actually it was much friendlier to women at the time than some of the other belief systems that were around in that area. Obviously not Celtic places, but more Judea focused and Roman focused. And then obviously part of that is because the church has just changed stances on women a lot over time. But like, that's my point, is like, this is actually quite a complicated topic. And I'm sure the Scottish and the Irish themselves have very strong feelings about Christianity versus paganism. I don't know if people know this, but the Irish care a lot about whether you're a Catholic or not. And so like, that's the reason it feels very surface level and cheap, is that this is not tied into ideas of like femininity in the pagan sense being like a good thing, but also maybe like constrained in certain ways. It's just a straight up upgrade.
And I didn't highlight the line, unfortunately, but like she's just like, I've never felt so humiliated in my life. These men are animals, essentially. Like, and like like they go in the marriage room, and he's like, I'm not gonna do this because I'm a good guy, but you know, he does the little rocking of the bed thing, like, so it sounds like they're doing it, and everyone outside is like, yeah. And like Amira took her shirt off because she thought, so her boobs are like they're jiggling.
This is one of those books again where the author is like, oh god, I want to be curvy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's two kinds of female authors, and one of them wants to be curvy and the men to be attracted to that, and the other doesn't want that. And this is the former. And I don't even mean that with any kind of veiled like, oh, this is good or bad. It's literally just a divide, I've noticed.
You're either the tiniest little shrimpy girl in the world, or you got big boobs, big ass.
Yeah, in one it's okay if men like it, and in the other it's not. And that's really the only difference I've really noticed. But good for her. I mean, again, it sounds like everything I say sounds like it means something, but it's just a divide I've noticed.
There's a way she could have sold this. Oh, he does the whole bed rocking, because what if he has a sensitive ego? What if he couldn't get it up to a girl who didn't want him back? Like, maybe, but no, obviously he's doing it because he's a feminist, guys. He cares about women's agency.
Or maybe he's not a boy at all. Maybe he's a girl.
Oh, see,
this played into my thing. I was like, okay, we're not talking about any bulges or things under the clothes. None of that is mentioned here. I'm like, oh, we're doing lesbians. This is gonna be so good. I was so sure that's what we were doing.
It would be so great.
I can't believe how wrong I was. I was so confident.
I understand what you mean, because I also at one point thought like, oh, the twist is so clearly that he saved her family secretly, and then that's not what happened, and I was like, oh, So I get like having this idea that you're viewing the story through because it seems like such a good idea.
But
And
she
then it's
doesn't
like,
subvert
no.
it in a way that's like interesting or like it makes for a better story. It's just sort of like, oh, that didn't happen. I guess
It could have been interesting, but it's literally just like, oh, he cares about women's rights, guys.
Yes, then this is the part where she learns that, like, okay, at court, all the women are Christians and they're kind of meek, and all of him and his brothers have all gotten wives from across the sea where they're Christian, and that'll become important in a moment.
And almost immediately after their wedding night, his Evander, who is now crown king, his son dies in infancy. Like we learn that all the little children in the castle are sick.
like, what's going on? Where are the little babies getting sick? And oh no, what's happening? And our girl, being like trained in midwifery, like she knows about sort of herbs and healing and stuff.
She's a doula.
Oh my god, I could help them. And they're like, absolutely not. You would just kill them. You'd kill them immediately, you nasty little queen.
Yeah,
awful,
it's probably
like,
the fact that you exist that's making them sick to begin with.
you just kill them on sight. It's like, all right.
Dying from your STD.
And like she's like, okay, well, I could save them, but whatever. And they're like, yeah, stay away from my dying babies, bitch.
It really is like that's the funny part. It's interesting too because this element has not been hinted at in the book to this point about the kids being sick, and so it feels very kind of like out of left field. Like this was something she added to the fic as she was writing it. In a published work, you would have seeded this earlier.
Yeah, I felt like I was like, oh, we're doing an Apothecary Diaries thing where like we're doing like a little mystery, like our cool smart main character. And I love Apothecary Diaries, so good. But like like she's gonna figure out who did it, and she's gonna find the poison, and she's gonna save everyone.
I thought that too at one point, but no, guess not.
And she kind of does, but it's like kind of a one-off, and like it just bites her in the ass later, so it doesn't really show us that she's competent.
Yeah, it didn't really go anywhere either.
Mm-hmm.
And during this whole time, she's also kind of still plotting to kill Fiorian. So she's like, oh, she's stealing sharp things when he's not looking.
He's like, oh, I've got like a little like a knitting like a needle or something.
Yeah,
and, like,
plotting her murder and escape. And even though he's kind of aware that she's doing this, because he catches her several times, even though he knows, he's suddenly like, oh, you're really trying to help the kids, aren't you? Here, let me sneak you into their bedroom so you can feed them herbs.
They also do that thing where the author can't decide if it's hotter, if he's better at fighting than her, or if they're equally good at fighting. Because at certain times, he's able to disarm her super easily, and at other times, they're matched opponents. And I think this is some kind of like a retcon from the fic or something. Like the fighting ability between them is not clear.
It is so romantasy that both of the male leads need to be super competent fighters, but none of them can be too outmatched with the other, because the man has to be super special, super fighter, very strong, but also he can't just humiliate our main lead because she's also super special, strong fighter. So in the end, it's kind of like a meh.
What it is it's a mashup of like 3 different wish fulfillments, and it works like this. The original wish fulfillment is there's a powerful masculine alpha man who's more powerful than me, and then second wave feminism happened, and everyone was like, shit, we can't do that anymore. She has to be good at stuff too. And then the demands of romantasy means that the main character has to have agency to do something. And so she has to be good at fighting on top of that. But each can't conflict with the one before. So you're left in this weird thing where like sometimes he's really good at fighting and infuriatingly powerful, but other times she can just trounce him, and it's confused.
Yeah, I've got no grasp on like how skilled this man actually is. I just know like he's just kind of skinny and pretty and good at fighting, but like the balance of power between them is not consistent at all across the board. So we spend like several days of them just being like bickering and her being like, I want to kill him, but then I don't kill him, and oh no, I didn't kill him. Why didn't I kill him? And they think they're hot.
And I didn't kill him, and I'm kind of turned on right now. I wonder why.
Yeah, and like he'll like every time she puts on a dress, he'll like his eyes rove over her, and she's just like, what does he want me to change? Does he not approve of my outfit?
Also, we live in a Celtic inspired world, but there's a bunch of corsets.
Why is it always corsets?
It's always corsets.
Why is there's leathers, And there's corset. Why is it always corsets?
The two kinds of women, leather and corsets.
And I don't know if there's anything important that happens before his birthday party.
Well, so she talks with some of his brother's wives, and they're like very meek and Christian. And she's like, women should do stuff. And they're like, but should they?
It's like that.
I don't know if we learn now or later, but he tells her that Evander's kind of going crazy since he bonded with the dragon. And there's an idea that the dragon makes the people who bonded with it crazy, which is very interesting, but won't really go anywhere.
Yeah, so Evander's been like drinking more since he got back to the castle. He's saying some out of pocket shit. Like he's just being a little odd.
He's being a little Joffrey, a drunken Joffrey.
Yeah, and Fiorian is just like, I don't like, my brother's acting a little strange. He's still my brother. And I still think maybe he could be a good king, but he's for sure acting a little weird. And I think it might be the dragon. I have some concerns. And we learn later that like their father, who also went mad before he died, like really went off the deep end, like beat their mother into like near an inch of her life, beat his like sons. Like he was a bad, like the madness that happening now really messed with these boys.
So
like,
even though Fiorian is kind of a bad guy sometimes, it's okay because he was abused at one point in his trauma. So isn't it kind of equal? Killing people, having trauma.
The genre conventions of romantasy are so like just like. I see them laid out.
Just give me Aemon. Just give me a second son with mommy issues who is kind of a bad guy and he spent his whole life compensating for it. Like, don't give me this bullshit.
I think it did it a tiny bit better than most of them do because he is still kind of a bad dude in this, like, and like has some shit to unlearn and not like, oh, I was a feminist the whole time, everyone.
Yeah, many times you're like, you're such a smirking shit, Fiorian. I love you.
The bar is so low, but I was like, this is better. The bar is extremely low.
The bar is in hell. That didn't quite work for me because, to be honest, to me, he just kept going from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, he's not a consistent character.
Honestly, me picturing Evan Mitchell's face on him this whole time totally helped.
Which is why it would have been so much better if like he was doing a Mulan and was like putting on these different faces and like not like his identity, like maybe like he's this person in this situation and like.
Then there's his birthday party, and this is a good example of it because it's a birthday party, and one of the guys wants her to dance with him, and she's like, no, and he's like, but come over here and dance with me. So Aemon or Fiorian.
No. First she like stomps her heel into his foot, like really hard, and he's like, "Oh, fuck you, bitch! Ow, that hurt." And then Fiorian comes over and is like, "Don't lay your hands on my wife, you nasty man." And first the guy is like, "Oh, thanks for sparing me." And then he slices his hand off immediately, and there's blood everywhere. And Evander, who is king, who's going a little crazy, is like clapping, like, "Ha ha ha! Everyone, let's dance on the bloody floor!" And we're all just like, "Yeesh!" But oh shit, we skipped a part, you guys. We skipped a part. Because this is after she gets sliced across the chest, and he does a little hurt comfort with her family.
Oh yeah,
and she learns that Orla is actually alive. Her mother figure that she grew up with.
Oh, and Sorsha, don't forget.
And Sorsha, the lesbian bartender. And she's like, oh my god, these two people I love so much, and I was just mourning Orla, and she's still here. This is so exciting. And Mr. Alfred, the evil Catholic guy who like lives in the castle, is like, if you don't summon your dragon, because we know you made a bond, we're gonna kill them. And she's like, no, don't kill them. That would make me so sad.
If you don't summon your tiny hatchling, because
they think it's the hatchling. They think it's the hatchling.
Clearly, she found an egg and bound it hatchling. So he's like, you summon her.
Yeah, and she's like, no, and she accidentally started summoning her dragon earlier, so she knows her dragon's on the way, and she's like, I gotta, like, but they give her drugs so that she can't like communicate with her dragon normally. So she's like, I want to tell her to go away, but I can't. And does the dragon actually show up in this scene? She does, right?
I think so. I don't remember.
Yeah, so she lands and everyone's like, oh shit. And they realize, oh, this is a girl dragon, which is, there hasn't been a girl dragon. It's like, there hasn't been a girl heir this whole time. And they're like, a girl dragon? That's crazy. I don't remember how they get out of this, but I do remember that like Orla, like, or not Orla, Amira agrees. So like, I'll do what you say. It's okay. Just don't hurt my dragon. Don't hurt my mommy. And then they're like, cool, you promised. And then they kill mommy anyway and imprison Sorsha.
They kill mommy, and then there's like, bind your dragon to our cause. Promise to serve us. And she's like, no, I can't do that. And they're like, oh, but if you don't do it, well, we're gonna kill Sorsha as well. And she's like, no, I can't.
The lesbian that you have not really thought about in a fond way at all. And she's like, no, not Sorsha. And Sorsha gets thrown in prison as like leverage to use against her, I guess, even though like she doesn't think about Sorsha almost at all throughout this book, even though she's in prison down there.
It's such a add-on. Going back though to back to him cutting off the hand. Yeah, the thing is, this is a really good example of his kind of like, this makes sense for Aemon to be completely extra and do something less. It doesn't really make sense for Fiorian to have done something like this.
His character is all over the place. It doesn't make sense. But the reason why I was bringing this up is because after this, like, she got a huge slice across the, like, here, maybe down her arm a little bit, from an evil Catholic guy while the dragon summoning situation was happening. And part of the reason, like, there's a whole hurt comfort, like, sewing her up. She's like, why are you helping me? He's like, I don't want to see you suffer. I'm actually a nice guy. And she's like, oh, okay. And it's like a little bit like sexy, touching stuff. But part of the reason why he cuts the guy's hand off is because like his fingers are like digging into her arm where the stitches were. And she starts like bleeding through her dress. And he like opens up the wound. And so our boy Fiorian is like, you made my wife bleed, you son of a bitch, and cuts his hand off. That's why I went back for that.
That's why I went back for that. Yeah, it's just, and again, I find that more interesting as if he was actually kind of a psycho. One tangent I'm going to make, because I've been thinking about this lately with romantasy, and one of the things that makes romantasy men so pathetic is how like lustfully devoted they are to the female main character without regard to having like principles of their own. And I do think that can work. And what the example I'm going to bring is actually not a romantic one. It's Richard Harrow from Boardwalk Empire, who his friendship with Jimmy actually kind of follows the arc of like, I am somebody who was a bad person and did bad things. I am morally adrift in this world right now and completely lost. But because you're a soldier and I'm a soldier and you're being kind of nice to me, I will murder anybody you want. And that's an example of how that relationship can be done actually kind of well. That's the kind of character, is a character who isn't very grounded in what they want or in their world, and they find this one thing to latch onto. And often that will just end up being an unhealthy relationship over time. And so that's why in this book, we're going to feel that in a minute when Fiorian all of a sudden just starts to decide to be on her side a lot. And you're like, but ¿por qué? Why? Like, what happened?
It's real weird. And like, we get the sense that he's attracted to her through this whole time, which is fine. Sure, like a lust versus sight, no problem, whatever. But like, that he's like weirdly kind of deciding that his attraction to her is also like devotion somehow, and that he thinks she's hot and like is sexy when she does like crazy girl stuff, that it makes her kind of like a good person.
Yeah, it's doing the romantasy thing where the person you're turned on by is clearly the person you should be with.
If I'm horny about you, you must be a good person. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Nothing wrong about you before.
I never realized how hot you are.
And like, hot people can't be bad, right? That doesn't track.
I'll do anything for you, my queen. That's wish fulfillment, but it's not. You can't do wish fulfillment to this degree. I mean, the thing is, like, wish fulfillment only really works to a certain degree before it starts to degrade your ability to believe in the world. And I think that's part of the problem with romantasy, is that you're asked to accept so much of the world as being real that then these tropes feel even weirder in the context of, like, the great machinations of a nation versus, like, romancing the Duke. You know what I mean? Like in a classic romance novel.
Doesn't really work for Fiorian. And it doesn't even work for Aemon, who is based on.
And that issue is that, like, in every other chapter, Fiorian is kind of like, he's like wishy-washy and like waffling between like every other chapter. Like one, he's like, actually, I think I kind of believe in my brother. I can't abandon my family. Like I just can't. And then the next chapter, he'll be like, be talking and acting exactly like in line with our main character. Like, we want the same things. We want this, like, I'm actually on your side. And they are fundamentally like at odds with each other, these two things. And like, sir, are you just really confused? Like, maybe he is, but like, we don't get his perspective. So it's just sort of like a very mild whiplash that you get like from scene to scene, where it's like, I don't really have a solid read on this guy aside from that he's hot.
At this point, like, I was like, author, why are you turning my Amon into a wet towel? What is happening? I hate you. And it got worse and worse and worse. Like, the more attracted to each other, the worse it got.
There was like a sweet spot for a minute, like where they were like a sort of like a will they won't they, where I was like, I'm kind of feeling, but I was just desperate. I was desperate to see these because I needed to be entertained somehow, and I was like, the one thing that entertains me, people smushing their faces together. Always helps.
I will say this middle third is the easiest to read. Like, I'm ragging on it a lot because it doesn't make sense, but like all the problems that I'm mentioning now are because they become they blossom into fruition as real problems in the last third. But while you're reading it, you're like, oh, okay.
What's the first kind of spicy? I forget exactly what happened before the first kind of spicy scene.
She has had her dragon for 5 minutes, so she goes and lectures him about how to deal with his dragon in like the dumbest, most stupidest, like, which way does he turn when he's flying?
Well, is he right-handed or left-handed?
He somehow got a dragon when he was 13, yet he's been dragoning wrong this whole time. Like, he's not understood the first thing about dragons.
She's waxing poetic about how, like, the bond with my dragon, we know each other's thoughts. Again, she's had it for like a week, maybe. But like, she's like talking about how intimate it is. And then he's like near tears, like, I don't have that relationship with my dragon. And she's like, oh, is he right-handed or left-handed? What color are his eyes? You just need to bond with him a little bit. And then he closes his eyes. And she's like, oh, this man has his walls up all the time.
I'm so tired of romantasy talking about walls.
Then he closes his eyes and lets his walls down. And then he starts crying because of how intimate it is that he's finally able to have this bond with his dragon now that they've talked about their favorite flavor of ice cream and whether they're right-handed or left-handed.
It's so stupid.
And her dragon lands, and his dragon, Ervor, I think his name is, like bows to his queen dragon, like the girl dragon. He like is deferential, and she's like, "Hey, your dragon gets it, buddy." Like, oh.
And he has this speech about like, "Ugh, this whole time I thought I was fire, but really I was ice, and now that I've met."
That's a little later. That's a little later.
Care. And now that you're so feisty and sassy, I've now become.
I used to think I was fire, and then I met you, and then I realized I was ice. Because you burn hotter than anything I've ever seen.
Hot and sexy, but in a white way. And then they have sex for the first time, and it's fucking awful.
First, there's like, they have this whole trust conversation where like he gives her a knife, and he's like, I want you to have this. And she like holds it up to him, and he's like, you can kill me if you want to. I won't stop you. And she's like, wow, I think he really would. But they just like have this talk, and she's like, oh my God, I'm so angry at you for killing my family. And then she realizes halfway through this conversation while she's holding this knife to him, oh, it wasn't him. He just didn't have control over his dragon, and his dragon was the one who like killed them. And she's like, oh, it wasn't you. It was your dragon. And like, it still sucks, and I'm still angry at you. But she sort of like hesitates and like puts down the sword, and she's like, okay, I can see that you didn't do this on purpose, and like, I can't do this. And she like sort of yields to him a little bit. Like, this is mid-party right after he's sort of like stitched her up a little bit, so they just had a little hurt comfort. Like, the prose says, oh, he sort of like could see that she like sort of yielded to him in a way, and they just start like making out heavily and moaning into their names into each other's mouth, you know, all of that shit. And then brother crazy man like knocks on the door. He's like, oh, brother, I need you downstairs at the party. And he's like, having fun, are you? And they're blushing, and they go back to the party. They have a couple of other like little flirty encounters like this before the whole the real sex scene happens.
The delicate in and out.
It's not an elegant in and out at all. It's a
romantasy authors have one kind of kink, and unfortunately they're forcing it on the rest of us.
Before we get into this, I have to finish my Mulan headcanon, because the first sexy scene that they have where they're making out, she like up until that point, which is like 60% through the book, I would say, like, I'm thinking this is a girl, we're going to have like a sapphic relationship, this is going to be great. And then she talks about him getting hard against her, and I'm like, no, really? You catfished me this whole time? I was so sure. I was so
What's that in your pants, buddy?
I was flabbergasted. I was so anyway. I'm sorry. I just had to say that because legitimately, I was so certain that this was what she was leading up to, because she talks nonstop about how attracted she is to women and how she doesn't really care for
really
being with men. And this man is like a kind of a pretty boy and is skinny and like always talks about how svelte and pretty.
Yeah, and even during the first sex scene, she's like, "Oh, I've had dealings with the mast before, but it's all been so blah. I just couldn't be bothered. Like, women know how to take their time, but this one is totally different simply by virtue of being attached to the right man." Because let's face it, that sex scene was so basic and so boring, and I refuse to believe that her mind was just blown.
The things that were happening on page were not reflective of her
Again, romantasy authors need to stop inflicting their kink on the rest of us. They're not good enough to write it in a way that's actually hot.
Also, why do they all do this thing where she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I need you now. And then he thrusts all the way home on the first go. And they're not like, "Ow, my cervix."
It's always like sheathed to the hilt in one thrust. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
and I'm like,
all right,
"Stop."
don't do that. That's
No.
Don't try it, boys. It's and he does the whole talking like.
Suddenly he's daddy dumb. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be gentle, girl. And I'm just like,
Why wouldn't you shut up? I had to listen to that with my mom in the room.
Okay, first of all, you didn't have to. That was a decision you made. Okay, I wanted to just be clear.
Here's the thing: when my Mulan fantasy was ripped out from under me, and I was like, okay, maybe I can still have my little femboy. Maybe I can have my demure, sweet little femboy. But no, she gives me suddenly. He goes from sort of like, I'm attracted to you, like kind of a simp almost, to I'm just gonna. It's just like Mr. Dirty Talk, Mr. Big Dick. I'm just like, oh,
it's nothing like the rest of his character.
It's nothing, and I'm like, where did this man come from? I hate him.
And the dialogue is literally out of a bad porno.
It's so bad. The word she uses, the dialogue.
Nothing about it is specific to him as a character or her as a character or the relationship. It doesn't really move the story forward. He literally is just like the daddiest dom of daddy dom.
The author tries to do this thing where, because like in the next scene, like they're talking later, and like, she's like, the only place you can order me around is not in this room, and he's like, and that could be an interesting dynamic where she's like a girl boss and like like she'll only be like submissive and sort of like that could work, but it just doesn't in this, because it's not fleshed out with their characters, and they aren't characters, they're just nothing, they're just the minute the first sex scenes happen, you're just like, oh, they're not characters. They're just two horny people that are the same cardboard cutouts as every single other romantasy couple.
It's awful. It's real bad. And we haven't even gotten to the knife play.
As always, the sex is so mind-blowing. It just changes everything. So they wake up the next morning and they're like, oh, maybe we should be friends and not enemies. And then she goes,
maybe we trust each other now. So he takes her down. He's like, now that I trust you, now that we've had sex and I trust you fully, I'm going to take you down to save my brother's dying son. So she goes down there and she's like, checks his gums. I know what it is. It's bitterberries. He's been poisoned, everyone. And she's like, oh my God, who could have done this? But she makes like, she's like, don't feed him anything except for these things that I specifically make, like oatmeal or something. And he gets better, believe it or not. But beforehand, like, mom is like, how dare you let him touch my son, even though he's getting better and dying. Like, it's so stupid. The like girl on girl hate, like and she's just gonna kill my baby boy. And she's like, I would never kill a child. I love children, bitch.
She's like, no, you don't. You're sinful and hot.
But during this whole scene where she's healing the boy, like she like takes the oatmeal and she like scoops it up with her finger and she like puts it in her mouth like sexily, and he's like, and then they immediately leave and find the nearest bathroom and just like bang it out.
It's a privy. This is not a bathroom with a working sanitation system that flushes. This is a hole in the castle wall that people shit down. You do not want to be having sex with those fumes around.
This is the sewer scene in flashes and start king all over again. I'm having so many bad flashes.
Well, depending on what floor of the castle they are, it's literally just a hole out into nothing, and it wouldn't smell that bad, but still.
This is not as sanitary as a bathroom. This is a privy. But anyway, that may lead that you'd think that might be a clever, like, oh, maybe this will lead to an infection later, having to do with what they do here now, but no. And there's like this stuff where they're like swearing themselves to each other while she like draws a knife around her boob and like she slits a little bit of skin. It's knife play.
I'm like, is this? I just read a bad vampire book where people call each other princess, call the main character princess. And
how did you put it in the group chat? It's like you are like fixing out a hangnail. It's not hot.
It's not described in like a hot way. It's just described like when they're like sucking each other's blood out of the like wounds. It's described like I just like snagged a hangnail and I'm like, ow, and I'm like have to suck the blood out of my like a finger is like tinny and like irony. And I'm like, okay, like I don't know what this is doing for you in particular. If it works, it works. But for me, I just feel like I got a hangnail.
There could have been something with, the taste of iron being often connected to magic and, old hedonistic myths and such. But no, it's not.
It's sexy because knives, guys.
Like Limber said, there could be something with paganism and binding themselves to each other and dark and kind of weird.
They didn't get into that.
Though.
No,
yeah, it's not. It's just like romantic-y scene, but with a little knife play and not hot knife play.
It wasn't.
And thankfully, though, that's the last sex scene of the book.
At that point, I was like, God, I can't take this anymore. I had to turn the
You don't understand. It was earlier this morning, and she was texting me the whole time, and she couldn't do it. She had to turn it off literally, and then come back to it like 10 minutes later.
I was listening to it like in a sort of like a fascinated way. I was like, oh,
I get such secondhand cringe from that kind of thing. I was like, oh, this is excruciating. This was written just to torment me.
And like I was telling Will, I think I didn't mind it that much because I was like, well, this is painful, but also like I don't care about the plot, so like at least this is taking up page space where I don't have to watch these people try to do the plot.
Well, we don't have to pretend like we care about the plot.
This is porn. Do I have to watch the part before the sex scene, or do I want to watch the sex scene even though neither is good? Like, but the acting is worse than the mattress acting. Okay, the next thing that happens or not happens, I don't know. At some point, he reveals his trauma to her, which is that he got a bunch of scars, not on his eye, because his dad used to beat him up. And then he bound a dragon, and he could save his mom from being beat up.
At the age 13, which is very young.
Here's what you don't know, which is that this is not exactly how Aemon got his dragon, but kind of the same. But this kind of goes to the idea that dragons as nuclear living weapons, an animal with an animal's temperament is actually really interesting in that, like, if you're a 13-year-old with a dragon, all of a sudden you have power in a way that you would never have had it normally. And like that would actually be a really interesting thing to explore in an abuse context and what that means. But this is just trauma,
it would have been so cool because like, again, like him not being able to have that like emotional bond with his dragon, if they talked about how like he was one so young and two so traumatized, and like this like animal essentially was just sort of a conduit for his like pent up rage sort of, and he couldn't control it. Like there's so many interesting ways you could analyze this like dragon relationship and what like how him like having that so young, his relationship with his mom. No, it's not dealt with. It's just like, isn't he cool because he got a dragon when he was 13, guys? And also, isn't it sad that his daddy cut him up so bad?
And it's lame because Aemon in the show does it because he's like a badass at like 13. Like he's like, no, I want the largest dragon and I'm willing to maybe die for it. Like it's a very active kind of sharp-edged thing for his character to do in the way that this character has all of his edges blunted and dulled.
Yeah, and in the show, Aemon has been bullied by the whole group of kids because he was the one person whose egg, because in the show, all the kids get a dragon egg and not all of the eggs hatch, and his didn't hatch, so he has not had a dragon. And they kind of, at one point, they kind of trick him that, his dragon is gonna come out now. And then it's just a pig they have kind of glued wings onto. And they're all laughing at him and, really bullying him. And you do get this sense that, and he's incredibly fixated with the idea of dragons. Like he goes down into the dragon pit as a kid, which is, you know, really dangerous because dragons aren't pets. They are not dogs. They, especially the dragon pit, is where they go to be alone, to be dragons. So he almost gets roasted down there. And then when Damon's first wife dies, she was the rider of Vhagar, who is the biggest and oldest dragon in living memory. So he risks his own life, but at the same time, he also kind of steals the dragon from the Velaryon family. Mm-hmm. So it's a double thing, and it's such a badass move.
I mean, he has a line where like his eye gets slashed out because his cousins are like salty about it, and he says to his mom, "Don't worry."
Yeah, he said, "I lost an eye, but I gained a dragon."
And that's like such a cool, like actually kind of.
Bitch, I like it.
This character does nothing that cool at any point. No, because that would not be like safe enough.
A scrappy bitch kind of character like that would have been so neat in this story.
Yeah, and that's why he has so many fans. That's why there's so many fanfics about him, because Aemond in the show is a bitch.
So she just scrubbed off the interesting parts.
You know that like meme or sexist trope of like, oh, women want a wild man, but then they want to domesticate him, and then they're not interested in him again. Not a real thing. I'm just saying, you know, that trope. Mm-hmm. It's almost like authors do that to the character, though. Like, they take this really interesting, wild character, like, dull all of his edges, and then are like, but hot, right? And you're like, well, no, you took the thing that was cool about it and got rid of it.
But, like, instead of it being, like, sharp, spicy edges, it's just all of his personality.
I've read a lot of original character / canon character pairings during my days. I'm one of those girlies. And the issue that you almost always get is that they have fallen, the author is low-key in love with this character, the writing, the canon character, and then they make an OC that they just conjure out of nowhere because they need someone who can smush face with their favorite character. And then in writing it, like their FMC does not have a personality. She always gets some quippy mashing up of different tropes. And then the main character, because it's a fantasy, it's their personal fantasy they're writing. And because it is a fantasy, the canon character always at some point goes OOC, and then it just goes more and more and more and more.
You described this book perfectly. I mean, like that's so clearly this book.
It feels like that with every single romantasy, almost like without fail. Like it's like I fell in love with this guy either that I wrote or that someone else wrote, and I'm gonna make a character that I like and that he would fall in love with. And she's cool, guys. She's badass. She's really cool. She's probably good at fighting, and like. She doesn't care what men think, and she's a feminist, everyone, and she's a feminist, and she's strong. And then it's time to kiss, and then it's so boring. It's so boring.
You're taking away the thing we came here that was interesting because you thought it might hurt our eyes by being too bright, but like we came for this fireworks.
We came, and you came for bitchy Aemond, and then he fizzled out. Actively, he fizzled out during this book. And then the end happened, and I was like, ooh, suddenly this is my favorite thing again.
Oh, I hated the ending. I'm sorry. But I'm so mad at this author. Just to finish off this, I'm so mad at this author. One, first took from me my my sapphic romance, my Mulan headcanon that I was so sure I was right on. And then, like, for, like, a few chapters, I had this hope. I was like, okay, so I'm going to have sort of, like, a demure pretty boy, at least. And this is going to be, like a sort of a twist on the romantasy relationship, where the girl's the badass, cool one. She took that from me, too. And at this point, I was just like, fine. I'm done. We're back in romantasy hell. Let's finish off this awful journey.
We suffer through the second sex scene, and suddenly, because of the power of the twat, he is on her side, and they're gonna try to put her on the throne. And for some reason, she is not suspicious about this at all. She's like, "Oh, I have won him over to my side through the sheer power of sexiness."
Oh, you forgot the part where, okay, so we forgot the feminist angle of this. This is, I think, the part where she's like, dude, you're making this whole city really sexist by letting these Catholics in. And he's like, no, we're not. They're fine. Nothing's changed. And she's like, there's all these laws. And he's like, I never heard about those. And she's like, it's okay. You're a feminist king. We'll change it when we're king and queen together.
And then he's like, hey, princess, do you know why all my brothers get their wives from across the sea where the Covenanters are really mean to women? It's because not only am I saving one woman every time they get married, I'm saving we bring over like hundreds of like servants and like maids and stuff. So I've helped well over 100 women in my life
so
by outsourcing my brides.
My brothers. It's like, so yeah, no, they're not submissive, and this wasn't a sexist thing. We're saving them.
And then our main character is like, well, that's real sweet. But also, have you heard about sexism in your own city? Because, buddy, girls aren't doing so well here. And he's like, what? Women are being hurt in my perfect little castle town?
The thing is, it's mentioned that his mother is from there, the Allison stand-in, and that she like is very like, oh, she's like a self-hating woman, again, not a girl's girl, and this is the part where I think it plays into like House of the Dragon. And for the record, I'm not, all these comparisons we're not making, the problem isn't that it's different than House of the Dragon. The problem is that House of the Dragon is a very close way of doing this that's a better, so it's just a good contrast to keep talking about. House of the Dragon, it has a lot of stuff about women and their role in society and how difficult it is to navigate that. Alicent, for example, has to navigate it in a different way than Rhaenyra does because Rhaenyra has a fucking dragon at her disposal. And even in the books, for example, one of the things is that when Rhaenyra was young and hot, everybody was like, yeah, she can be our queen. And then when the king died, she was kind of like old and a little fat, and everyone was like, I don't know if you want to do that now. And like they have to navigate this world in a complex way. And so Alicent, is hated by a lot of the fandom, but she has to make some difficult decisions about like how she is going to survive and is important to keep in power. And she realizes like she has these sons who are kind of shitty, and she will never actually let her talk, essentially. But this is kind of a nest she has built for herself, a bed she has built for herself. That's complicated. Alicent stand on here being just like self-hating and bad is not complicated. Like Alicent is the way she is because of complex factors more so than just sexism. And some people are sexist and some people aren't.
Again, like I've said this before when we've read these books, like our romantasy books, is that these authors think that all you have to do to make a complex character is give them trauma, but it doesn't have to mean anything. Like they just like, oh, look at this trauma that this sad mean character has. Look at the trauma. Look at how mean they are. But like there's no like real bridging connection between them that matters within the narrative. It's just like trauma made them this way, guys. Ta-da! There's
a physicist YouTuber I follow who like reads books every once in a while. She read an Ali Hazelwood one because it was about physicists, and it was funny because her perspective was on it. She's like, they're not even really characters here, they're just trauma, and then they act like they don't really have like a character and a personality. They really are just informed. They are really just like envelopes for trauma delivery, almost in a way.
It's an envelope with a trope written on the front with trauma inside. That's the letter inside.
That's what these characters are. That's the feminism. But then we get a super feminist, or not feminist, but sexist moment, which is up until now, the book again has been kind of like slice of life. It's fine. We didn't talk about how the second time in the privy, she moaned really loudly so that all the women who were married who weren't having good sex lives could know how they could be unoppressed.
How good this take is.
Yeah, what they were missing out of, what sex should be like.
You guys think I'm joking? It's literal.
She says that she's like, well, if their husbands aren't pleasing them like me, you are to me, then tough luck, ladies.
It's a nice encapsulation of how I feel like these authors' sexuality is being thrust at my face way more than I like. But randomly, Alfred, the Catholic priest, is like, ha, you're coming with us, bitch. And she's like, okay. And they grab her, and she thinks she can fight them off, but her magic powers aren't working. Did we even mention that there's magic?
So yeah, this whole time she's been like, so she can use fire magic.
I don't think we ever mentioned it.
For more than half of the book, she's been given this thing that suppresses it, right?
And it means nothing.
It's what you need to be a dragon rider. It's a sign that Bridget, their goddess, has kind of blessed you, and you are fit to be a dragon rider.
There's also other elemental magic that just doesn't mean anything. So we have not talked about it.
They have ways of suppressing the magic, so that's how they kind of been keeping her down. And lately, she's been kind of skipping out on that, and Fiorian has kind of helped her because he wants her to feel free.
They trust each other now because they're the best.
But suddenly, Alfred shows up, the priest, and he's like, I don't remember. We'll go.
She meets him somewhere, and she thinks that she's like sneaking up on him because she's like, he doesn't know that I have my fire powers. Ha ha ha. So she goes into this room, and he's like, ha ha ha, you've fallen into my trap, young lady. And she's like, no, I haven't. I have my magic. You don't even know that. And he's like, well, it's too dangerous for you Duloc people to have your fire magic, and we can't have you here in our castle. You're dangerous. We need to. And if you can't have an heir, we can't have magic being passed down to the next line. That's so dangerous. And we, men of the Covenant, we need to take care of this. So he's essentially like, we're going to cut out your lady parts without your consent, hold you down, and it's going to be real bad. It's extremely like traumatic scene. Like, she's having a fit. She can't use her magic because he has like sort of an incense in the air that is the equivalent of this sort of magic suppressant.
She's being held down. It's like full on body horror.
Like full on like assault body horror. Like she can like instruments cold instruments up inside her. It's really bad. Like this is nasty stuff.
I thought they were gonna give her female circumcision.
No, it's that would have actually been interesting too, because clearly these men, but no, it was just like they don't want her to have babies, and she's like, I don't know if I want babies or not, but I sure deserve the right to choose.
And the thing is, it's such a crazy escalation from
it's a crazy escalation.
The wives aren't having good sex lives to, they're giving me a hysterectomy.
Yeah, and also it's such a crazy escalation of the church is subservient to the king, and suddenly the church is just doing things on their own.
Doing its own thing.
To royals, to the king's brother's wife.
Because they hate women. They hate women so much.
Yeah, they just couldn't control themselves.
The issue is that this could be an affecting scene if the book had set it up well enough and it had the foundation to set up this scene well enough. Because honestly, her trauma and her reaction to it later is it wasn't bad. It felt to a certain degree, but it wasn't earned because the book is so flimsy about all of its themes up. And
okay, and here's why. Because before this, Fiorian had been like, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make it work. This should have been his turning point to go, oh shit, things have gone beyond where I realized there really is sexism going on in this court and this land. The Covenant isn't just outsiders. There really are real Catholics. This is the moment that should have made him pivot to being on her side. And it isn't, because this was put in after the fact. This is actually a time to cut off somebody's hand, even if it was kind of stupid when it happened, because it's just, but anyway, and that's the thing, is the author should have, I don't know why the author didn't do that. It's right there. It's a complete lack of talent, really. It's just an own goal, unforced error, as they say. But it goes to show how what they care about is how attractive the female main character is to the male main character, not the actual themes. Well, yeah, that's the point I'm making. She does not care about the Celtic stuff. She does not care about the gender stuff. Or this would have been that. This would have been a way to tie that into the actual personal story.
And just that Fiorian busts in there, hands off my wife style.
And he cuts some guy's head in half.
And he's like, are you okay? And she's furiously running off after these guys. And she kills a dude in her fury of, how dare you try to take this from me? This is my body, my choice. And then we get Fiorian just standing there looking at her like she's a goddess for having just killed this man. Just utterly turned on because she killed the guy who was, it's just it's so romantasy 101, behind this huge trauma.
Yeah, but also that implication.
It's so gross.
It feels gratuitous and exploitative, because it's such a horrible thing to use for your dumb horny fantasy.
Yeah, and this book has clearly set our main two characters up as kind of good people, and they are justified in their actions. And the fact that he's turned on by her killing some dude is just, yeah.
I'm at least glad that during the trauma wash this blood off of you scene, they didn't turn into a sex scene, because I would have been so angry.
Yeah, thank God.
I was so scared. I was like, are they gonna bang while she's having trauma flashbacks, like with her own blood?
If her trauma was like they have shoved a needle up her womb and then we go into a sex scene, I would just...
At least she had the sense not to do that.
Is there anything else of importance that happens in the book? I know she escapes and like Sorsha is a bitch to her and stuff, but like, is there anything actually important that happens?
Okay, so what happens is like they're like, okay, we're on the same team now, right? Probably. They shake hands, and then Fiorian busts Sorsha out of prison, where she's been this whole time, and then our main character's like, oh boy, I should have been thinking more about Sorsha. It sucks that she's been down there this whole time. So Fiorian is like, okay, you and Sorsha go meet up with your family. We're gonna do a work together thing where you and your daddy and your army, and I'll take care of things in the castle. So they split up, and Sorsha's real mad at her. She's like, you didn't tell me you were a princess, you huge bitch. And then she was like, eh. And like that's the whole thing.
That's literally it.
That's it. They go back, they meet up with daddy and brother, and daddy's war captain. They're all talking. They're like, Hugh got married, and she's like, he's actually a really good guy. And they're like, he's gonna betray you, you dumb slut. And she's like, no, I really like him. And they're like, all right.
Okay.
And then like she like touches herself thinking about him.
Her and her dad fix like their relationship a bit.
Like they have like a father-daughter talk that's not meaningful. And I was still so confused about their relationship at this point. I was just like, clearly that was supposed to be a meaningful conversation where they sat down and he was like, I was never a father to you, blah, blah, blah. It didn't hit at all. Because I don't know, this man is a washed up rocker in my head.
His relationship with her has not informed any of who she is now as a person is distinct. She has not thought about him in relation to like what's going on. It doesn't inform it at all.
And it's obvious at this point that the author, I really don't think, maybe in the second book she will, but I don't think she's going to make him into a full on like villain character or like do anything so bad that makes him irredeemable kind of. So like maybe she will, but at this point, like, it just kind of seems like she wishy-washy. Okay, dad, look at him. Look, father-daughter.
He's the scheming bastard, but he's my bastard is the kind of feeling you're going to get from it, I think. And then they're like, okay, let's go do the big battle now. And they go do the big battle. And then she's like, oh my gosh, but Fiorian didn't betray them like he thought he was. What happened? Is he okay?
They show up and she's like, where's Fiorian's cool blue dragon? I don't see him anywhere. Oh no, did someone kill my husband? Man, I don't see him. What could have possibly gone so wrong that he's not here helping me?
Yeah, and then they burn the city and they fight their way up to the castle.
Wait, I have to say, remember the woman giving birth in the very first scene, the one who they were talking shit about her lady parts while she was giving birth. She only shows up in the first chapter, but she also shows up here with an axe because she's fighting this huge battle with everyone. They mention her.
The small folk are fighting for her, Emira. They want their queen.
They want their paganism back, and they get to the throne room, and on the throne is no, hold on. Evander dies to a dragon battle with her dad.
Oh yeah, crazy King boy dies.
They lure Evander out on his dragon and she orders her father to let Evander and his army go. No, to let his army go and to just take Evander because Evander is the king, so he needs to die. But Mean Daddy.
Well, we don't know this yet. They go into the throne room, and on the throne is Fiorian. And what we find out is that this whole time he was playing her, and her dad was poisoning the cousins, and also that army that Lindbergh just mentioned, he didn't let go. He killed them all.
It was a spy poisoning the cousins, but yeah, probably on Daddy's orders.
So it's like, oh, you're kind of morally complicit in all the stuff he did. And she's like, Fiorian, how could you do this? And he's like, I don't even really remember. He was just
Fiorian is so dumb for this. Fiorian is so dumb for this because obviously her dad's going to be working in his best interest against him, like thinking like none of this is surprising. None of this should have surprised him. None of this should have made him be like, oh, my wife who I just talked to the other day about our mutual interests has betrayed me, because all of it makes sense for dad and his plans. And none of it is directly correlated to Amira and what she has done. Like, she was clearly still confused, and he's like, no, you're a huge bitch and I don't trust you anymore.
His play should have been that all along he was going to put himself on the throne, and everything else was just parody. But the author is still trying to play it as, I was kind of going along with you, but then you betrayed me first, and now I want the throne. And then the misconception for the next book is that she believes that, oh, you just wanted the throne all along, but really he didn't. He was gonna.
That was my thought. Like, he realized, like, okay, Evander is going crazy with his dragon, but I can't kill him as king because, like, that would look bad. So I need to get them to kill him so I become heir. No, that would have made so much more sense and been such a more like active, cool character thing to do.
She's not going to do it. She's going to make him the best good boy the minute the next book starts.
Yeah, and it was all a misunderstanding, and they just want to reconcile.
I'm telling you, Serpents and the Wings of Night flashbacks. I'm getting them here with this 2-time enemies to lovers, like oh, surprise, we're doing it again, guys. We're enemies to lovers round 2.
Yeah, and that's where the book ends, is that they're flying off and his dragon is letting her dragon go, so you know that in his soul they'll get back together. And it's dumb because it's what you said. We talked about this a lot, is that the problem with romantasy is that often romance books are one and done. Like, if there's a romance series, it's like one couple is one book, another couple is another book, because the way that romance books want to work is not a slow burn. They have a very specific formula. That's okay. That's how it works. A rom-com has a formula that it follows. But that formula cannot be stretched out over like 3 books or even more. And so they end up having to just reset at the end of the book so that they can do the same formula again. But it feels repetitive and like it's unearned. It's not even like they're learning something each time they break up and get back together, because that is kind of interesting.
At the very least, pick a different trope for book 2, not enemies to lovers. It's just like, oh, let's do the same thing again, you guys.
Enemies to lovers, and then misconception, back to enemies to lovers, and then next one is going to be misconception again, and it's just repetitive and pointless. And
romantasy as a genre itself is fundamentally flawed, I think, just in that nature, because the epic fantasy, like sort of sprawling plot, does not really lend itself to having like a one woven like romance through it, because again, like that's sort of like a one arc situation, so you have to keep either throwing stupid conflict at them to keep these people apart, and I think you can like put a wrench in a relationship in an interesting way and continue that throughout like an epic fantasy series for sure. But when romance is clearly what this author is wanting to do most of all she knows is sort of the romance archetypes that she's like working with. And it's boring. It gets so boring in a series.
It really does. The thing is, you could have a fantasy that was primarily a romance, but you can't have romantasy in the way that romantasy is specifically romance novel. A romance in epic fantasy, because that does again require a very specific of like, we need to have the sex scene by this portion of the book, we need to have the third act misunderstanding and then getting back together. Like it's a formula, and it's not a formula that plays well with big sprawling multi books that care a lot about the fate of the world and world building. Like, again, if the two are fundamentally at odds in the way they're constructed, and the only reason they've been successful is a testament to human horniness.
Again, I've read romantasy before and had a hee-hee good time, and I had a hee-hee good time for part of this book too. Part of it I did. I know it's not classy or cool, and it sucked real bad.
But it's far from the worst I've read. It's passable for most of it. Like, the sex scenes were excruciating.
They were bad. They were
just 2. Like, all the rest of the time, I could just turn my brain off and imagine Fiorian as Evan Mitchell, and it worked out all right. And my headcanon, after having read the end, is that he was totally mean and conspiring all the time, and I finally got the character arc that I wanted, and I like this book. Yeah.
I will agree somewhat to say that the first 2/3 go through pretty fast. Again, no credit to the author, but they're kind of painless, especially because we've read so many terrible books.
I thought they were painful.
For me, it was like, we're getting through it. It's fine. This is relatively short for romantasy, which is nice. And then the last third is when all of the problems that were being built up become such a problem to me, and it's also the part with the sex scenes.
But also when I was the most entertained, because there's something to be said about sort of like a routine between characters, like, which I always say, and like I like that, like, when like, okay, I know like we have a room, we have a place, we've got our cast of characters, sort of like almost like a sitcom situation. Like we have our apartment. Like it's like there's a comfort and routine that I enjoy with romance plot lines that was present in this book that I could chew on for a little bit. But then the romantasy stuff kept coming back in. They kept trying to be like, why does this woman want to be queen? I don't know. Because she was born for it.
Women.
Oh yeah, for women.
We have to save all women, guys. We're book 2, all women. Women are never going to be oppressed again under Amira's rule.
Because clearly, if you just throw the Catholics out, everything gets better. I didn't even talk about how this book does my least favorite trope, which is there's a world where some people inherently have magic and others don't, and yet there's not a caste system.
Well, I have to go to work, so if you want to do that, you're gonna have to do it without me.
No, all right. No, I just said that bit. Okay. Thank you all for joining us. This was terrible, despite the fact that some of us said it was good. It was not. It was very bad.
I didn't say it was good. I said my brain has probably eroded to a fine dust, but I had kind of a good time.
You know what? You go ahead and go, and me and Val will do the Patreon plug.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Bye, Lenny.
Now that she's gone, thank God. Do we have a Patreon?
I think we do have a Patreon, Will. That's crazy that you would ask me that.
If you join this Patreon, what do you get at the normal level?
Well, let me tell you what you get at the normal level. Will, you get access to the Discord, where you can meet and hang out with cool, fun, sexy people like me and all of our other lovely book club members or patrons. And that's all you get for the first tier.
That's all you get for the second one. You get to be part of the book club, where you get to decide 1/4 of the books we read. You nominate a book, then you vote on which one, and we have to read it at the end. And that has come back to bite me a lot. I now understand the appeal of tyranny and that democracy doesn't always make good choices. But you also get an active channel on the Discord to talk it over with the other people who are reading at the same time. A lot of book clubs suck because the people in them aren't very smart. Not so the case for ours. Lots of smart, sexy, cool people there. And then on the third tier, we have the critique tier, where me and Katie, who is like Val, I sometimes say is like discount Katie, so this is like real.
How dare
counts
you?
As Katie. We take a look at prose and we usually look at like a close lens at books to see how they achieve things. So, for example, we might look at the language in the sex scene, as we have a couple of times, and point out to you exactly why it's bad to keep mentioning people's genitals so much when you should just use pronouns. We've done that with a couple of different books. If you specifically, I think we did it with Bride with Ali Hazelwood, that sex scene, the werewolf one. So if you want to gain access to, I think we have almost like 25 of those now that'll never come out on YouTube, join that. Okay, any last thoughts, my co-host intern?
The book was weird. The book was romantasy needs to change or stop. That's my that's my thesis.
No justice, no peace. All right, bye.
Bye.